way up on the mountain, so every day we take like an hour and a half or 2 hours up to the mountain and come back for some time. Okay, so this is where the places that we make this here.
Really? Wow.
It's at Guqin Dashi. This is actually a Buddhism university. They have a program, and this is actually one of the. This is not a. It actually collaborated with the university, but the university is way higher on the mountain. Okay, so this is just a place, another place that makes routine. They also have a workshop at the university as well.
So it began with last fall. I went to Taiwan beginning of September to meet up with Professor Lin to begin the process of creating the Guqin. And there was a bit of a shortcut right at the beginning, in that they already had wood prepared, ready to go, already kind of roughly shaped into the sort of a blank form.
Yeah, and they
that we
ask
would
you
work from.
ahead of time what style you want.
Mhm.
So they make this shape because he said he wanted to do 蕉叶. So they make it, yeah.
So it's a huge time savings part, because that first set of trying to get the right curvature of the surface and everything it's critically important to the playability of the instrument. And so by having that prepared ahead of time, plus having very good wood that's already been selected, the wood has a tremendous impact on the sound of the chin. So you want very clean wood, straight grain, very few
curve,
defects.
it's the curvature.
Both the curve this way and this way.
I don't think that they don't do that.
The original is
Did
already.
the professor mention that how many years the wood has the age of it?
Well, right now, they just use them, not like old wood, because most of us are students.
Right.
You're not gonna use this 100
Too
years
expensive,
old.
yeah.
It's for
Yeah.
master. The master wanna make it.
Yeah.
So this is just, it's not.
Yeah. So this wood is part of a stockpile that they've had
Right.
for several years that has been kept drying in the process. And previous to that, it had been separately prepared to help make sure that there's
Oh,
no
I think
resin inside it.
I heard they put the wood in the water and microwave it. They want to get out the
Microwave.
yeah,
Yeah.
they want to get out the sap inside
Mhm.
of the wood. They need the wood to be clean, so they actually prepare before they cut.
So the tools that we're using in the beginning, you can start to see where the lines are being drawn for shaping this. And we're basically just using these tiny little planes, as well as roughing tools like a Shinto rasp and so forth. And that begins the process of sort of shaping the form. And a lot of people don't realize that the chin is actually made up of, probably about a dozen different pieces of wood. So there are two main forms, the top surface and the bottom surface. And those are two different kinds of wood. They can be from the same type of tree, but they're from different parts. So
The top needs to be soft.
the top
The
needs to be
bottom
soft and
be hard.
open.
The soft because it's into resonant sound. So the top part has to be soft. So most of the time, the top and bottom is completely different wood. But you're right, it could be different. But it's very hard to find the same tree that had to do.
And when you're using, for the underside, the flat bottom is used to kind of contain the sound within the sound box of the instrument. And so it tends to be a more dense wood or a tighter grain version of the same wood, depending on which approach you take. But then at the gums of the instrument, you have multiple pieces that you can see here that are glued into place. And the grain is oriented in such a way to be able to essentially hold back the tension of the strings so that it doesn't split the wood of the main surface. If you had just run the main wood to the edge and then put the strings on there, they would literally just cut into the wood and split the wood, and it wouldn't last. So here we have pieces all the way across the top. In other styles of instruments, you'll also get them across the bottom as well. to help provide the protection for the strings and also the protection for the top surface of the wood.
And for Jiaoye, you can see, it looks like one piece, but it's actually all covered up. The Jiaoye is a different style than the other one, so we kind of mask it in, because you can't tell it's actually made into one wood.
Yeah. So once the rough shaping has been done for the wood, that maybe takes a couple weeks, up to a month, depending on how complex you want to make it. That's the end of the woodworking. Pretty much all the rest is lacquer, and this is where I run into trouble. So it starts with pure lacquer that's been extracted from a lacquer tree. It's a natural form, it's not a synthetic chemical. And we start by putting just kind of a thin seal coat to seal up the wood to give a good base for the cement to adhere to. And then we start creating this mixture of lacquer and powdered deer antler. So deer antler has been dried, it's been removed of all the impurities and ground down to a very fine powder. And that's mixed essentially 1-for-1 with lacquer by weight. And when you stir it together, you get this kind of frosting looking material. And as soon as the lacquer is exposed to the air, it starts to cure. So it's starting to harden. We have a very limited amount of time to work with it. So it's
oxidized.
Exactly. And it's essentially like trying to frost a cake, but high speed. But you still have to try and get it just right. And so there's the first layer of this lacquer using kind of a rough grit, or essentially a rough grain of the powder that's initially applied. And then this fabric mesh is laid across it and pressed down into that lacquer. So this is, you can think of this as almost like rebar for cement. It holds the lacquer in place, it helps protect it, avoids chips from being, or cracks being able to run along the surface.
Yeah, they think they can prevent distortion.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's I have asked the teacher if all the other makers do the same thing. Very similar, but not 100%. Everybody has their own procedure. So it's turning dark because it's oxidized.
Yeah, as the material is polymerizing, it's linking together, it darkens. But one of the challenges when you're applying this lacquer is that it oxidizes initially on the top surface, but underneath it, it may still be liquid or still be soft.
That's the hardest part of the applying the lacquer. He called it cement, but cement means lacquer plus amber powder. The thing is, when you apply it, the top oxide is hard, right? But no air goes in, and so the bottom is still soft. So it's very hard to apply because the best way you have to learn it is like when you apply the cement, you have to keep mixing until it almost dark. Then you can just do the final spread. But nobody have time to do that. But then if you don't do that, you can have this for weeks and it's still soft inside. And so we do have cases of where they have to fix because sometimes we have to fix a big hole. And what we do is we put the cement in, but then I have to go in like poke it with a needle.
To allow the air
to go in. Otherwise, then it would still take weeks to dry. That's how hard it is.
And when applying the lacquer, you pretty much have to start at one end and continuously move down, down, down. Usually kind of doing it section by section, because if you go back and you touch a prior section, the top surface has already formed kind of a skin on it, and the moment you touch it, the skin will tear and you'll have a defect.
You have to do it just the right time.
Yeah.
You have to spray just right, because if it's too hard, then it's not smooth, and you have to start all over. Yeah, it's a labor.
Yeah.
And then, but he actually put this bridge on also when I went in here.
So with this cement layer, so ultimately the top surface of the instrument gets about 10 different layers of this cement.
Yeah,
At each point we're getting finer and finer
the coarse
material.
and then the medium
Yeah, so it's 2 layers of the coarse, 4 layers of the medium, and then 4 layers of the fine. The bottom surface doesn't get quite as much. It gets about half that because it doesn't need quite as much protection because you're not playing that surface. But it still gets quite a few layers as well. So you're constantly going back and forth.
You need
between
all
the
that
two.
because to protect the wood, but also it has to be hard enough to withstand the stringing. You know, when you string it, there's a lot of pressure. So
Yeah.
some of the, if it's, it can distort.
Mhm.
So after you play for a while, if you find it have a difficult playing, it's because the curve's off.
Mhm.
And so, that's hard to fix. Right.
Yeah, and ultimately, so during my time, twice I had fairly severe allergic reactions. So the first time was when we first started working with the lacquer. I managed to get a couple days into it before I noticed that the rashes were starting to develop. And within about 3 days, I had blisters from my fingertips up to my elbows on both arms, even under the fingernails. It was really unpleasant.
He couldn't sleep because he was itchy all of it.
Yeah, it's maddeningly itchy, and you can't scratch because it'll break the skin. You don't want to cause infections or scarring or anything. So it took a lot, and it takes about 2 weeks for the reaction to pass. So you just stop exposing yourself to the lacquer, take a couple weeks off, which in this case worked out because the lacquer needed to dry and needed to cure during that time anyways. So when I came back, I had longer gloves, a lot more protection, and even with all of that, it's still there's lacquer particles in the air, there's dust everywhere because this whole workshop people are constantly working.
And also if it's hot sweat that in the air, it gets in your
makes
skin.
it
worse
too.
also.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So after the second time, as we were getting close to the end of my first 3-month period
Can't
there,
wait to go.
I had the full reaction again. It was much more slower coming on this time because I was being more careful, but it still ended up just as bad. But I managed to get it far enough with the teacher's help where we had all of the layers of the coarse cement in place. We had the shape already defined and the curvature defined. From this angle, you can't really see the waves of the banana leaf, but they're there. And I had a chance to begin carving the inside, which is where you start to refine the sound of the instrument. And we were able to mount it in the string frame where we could actually test it out and sort of rough out that sound. And that's when I had enough.
But the teacher actually let you experience a little bit because
Yeah.
I do a lot more.
Yeah, this was kind of an early experience getting into testing the sound. Usually you would do it a little bit later. But what we ended up deciding was that in the following spring, Eileen would go back and actually pick up where I left off to be able to
I don't
continue
know
the
what I got
project.
myself into.
And there's no work being done on the chin during the winter because it's too cold for the lacquer.
Yeah.
The lacquer needs warmth,
It needs
moisture,
to
and
have
air.
Even in Taiwan.
Moisture,
Yeah.
yes.
Even Taiwan is winter. Oh.
Yeah.
Because the moisture need to be at least above 80%. So when I was there, it's almost like 88%. And then at the beginning, when I was in March, it's very cold, so it's very slow. So we need to hurry back. And so, all right, this is my first day going in. Okay, so the teacher showed me how to use the brick to do the sanding to know how uneven it is. So that's what we have to work on. So you can see it's all very rough. So from here to here, that's right.
And that brick is essentially a sharpening stone that's been specifically carved out so it has just the right curvature. So you can use that.
Actually, how they do it is because this curve is already pretty similar at the beginning. So they put a sandpaper and they take the brick and they sand it, and actually the brick will form into that shape. So I have to do that several times. Every time I use it for a while, I have to reshape it. So this will tell you that how uneven it is because every step you do when you're making has to be very meticulous. Otherwise, you have to spend a lot of time to correct it. Yeah, so that is not very good. You can see it's not even at all.
That's the
So,
early stage.
yeah, and then you can go ahead. And so that's what I do, that's what I'm sanding, so that's what we do. So all this color that you see is not the wood grain. This is all the lacquer. Every time you put a lacquer, you have to sand it before you can put another one. Otherwise it won't heal. So every time you sand it, this is all this pattern. It's a kind of very interesting pattern. Yeah. So you never know what comes out, at the end. So where we work is actually Centennial. It's actually a tourist site too. So the government and university, they make it so people can see what we're doing. And so we have to put a sign out there, this is Guqin, not Guqin. All the time people say, oh,
We made that sign while I was there.
So people can watch what it is. So this is a 200 antler powder, that's the fine one. So, okay, so that's what I do. That's what I do, sanding, all day. And
More lacquer,
we're
more
constant,
sanding, more lacquer.
So this is almost at the end, we're a little bit closer, later we start doing the paint, the transparent paint. That's pretty much when, at beginning of doing color. Okay, so we're on next. So you have to decide what color you want. The teacher said, okay, what color? I said, I don't know how to do color. I said, okay, what do I want to do? So I said, okay, if I want a black and have a little bit of red showing through, what do I do? So they said, okay, so at the bottom I do red. Okay, so that's what the red looks like. So I'm doing the red first. And next. And after, actually, it looks red, but when it's dry, it's not as red. And so after I sand it, you can see a little bit black and then shows through. Then I put gold. Because I want to look gold.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Then I do black. Yeah, so next. And so this will happen after you sanding. And you can keep going.
So it's basically breaking through the layers
But
as
all
you're
through
sanding.
this, I have to continue checking the curve. The curve this way, basically, there is kind of a wave curve, up and down. Okay, so I always have to rule it. If the curve is not right, you have to sand it. And then once when you sand it, the color may show off. I don't know what the color going to be. So we constantly have to do it because every time we do painting, it's not even. So we're talking about one piece of paper thickness. So if there's a difference, then we have to keep going back to do it. So go next. So I am doing the way, I'm putting the way in.
So the hui are made of mother of pearl. So
This is
it's
actually
shell,
shell, yeah.
and so it's sort of cut down to a rough size and then fine-tuned to the circular shape of the different sizes of the markers that will go in. And then holes have to be drilled in just slightly into the surface to be able to embed the hui down within.
I was very picky because I want to make sure the hole is not too big because if the hui is smaller than outside, you have to fill something in. And usually that can be black. And we call that black eye.
No black
So
eye.
yeah. And so this one,
Sorry.
even though black, go back. Oh, no, hold on, go back. So even though this one looks kind of like gray, right? But it's actually, after sanding, it's very smooth, baby smooth. That's what you want. And I keep checking the curve, so next. So this one, I put a little bit, because after all that sanding, most of the gold comes out, so I'm gonna put a little bit gold in there. Okay, thanks. And then I'm actually fixing the, before I do the fixing around the hui. And so this is a different, I don't want it too black, so I do the brown color after that. So basically you can just keep trying whatever the color you want. So I'm working on the area around the hui. And then teacher teach me how to sand it because when we put the hui in, it's not flat to the, you can't have it too flat either because you haven't finished all the painting. So you need to have a little bit raised up. So then I'm using this to sand all the hui down a little bit. And so, and I do a little bit of gold in the back. And so, after everything is done, pretty much all the color and curve is all perfect. Then it's time to open it up.
So we've had it temporarily closed through most of this process where the top and bottom are are glued together, but in a way where you can split it back open again. But it takes some real effort to split it. So he's in there with a knife and hammering through it, trying to
Because you
wedge
have
it through the.
doing the lacquer is already sealed outside, so you kind of have to. So after we open it up, we need to start carving it to get the sound we want. So, okay, so that he kind of showed me how to carve inside, and then we test it. So we carve, test, to see what the sound will it is. So basically, that's what I do. A lot of work.
Yeah, and there's various tools that get used, different scrapers and so forth, depending on which portion you're carving from, and how aggressively you want to be able to carve out the wood, the mass. Because there's a special ratio of mass between the mass of the top surface, the weight of the top surface, and the bottom.
The ideal weight from the top to the bottom is between 3 to 2 or 2 to 1, between that. And mine is just perfect golden ratio, so I'm okay. So, and then I'm just testing.
More testing.
And then now we're working on the top, because this is important. You probably know, this one was very high before, then we have to go it down. How we also have to measure the height of the string to the 7th versus the height here is different than the height here. The height is a little bit higher on the first string than the 7th string. So we constantly have to measure it to make sure, and then to adjust this. Yeah.
Yeah, and then similarly at the gum, you want to have a really clean transition.
Yeah, it was
So
just one piece
sharp
of paper.
connection with the strings, so you get a really good tone.
So this one, that's okay. So the in and the surface is only supposed to be only one piece of paper thin. Okay, and then that's what we're working on. And then this is just an area I put like where is for mid-tone, which is the high pitch, and which one we work on for harmonic. So this is, I just draw it myself, so I know why.
Yeah, so it's not a uniform carving inside. You get varying levels of thickness depending on whether you're below the heavy strings or the light strings. And then at the front and the back of the instrument, there's also different areas that have effects on harmonics and other resonances within the
And you
instrument.
can see this is where the feet is going to be.
Yeah.
And then we actually put the weight on it, so that's what I do all day. So it's actually doing pretty good. See, this I was working on this way, you can see, and I was very particular. I don't want my way to be yellow, so I made my own tool to start doing. So I actually worked harder than anybody else. At the end, I have to do a layer of lacquer, pure lacquer. Every time I apply a lacquer, I clean my way.
So white.
Because I discovered if you don't do it soon, it stays that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I actually, before I close it, I have to write down what I have here, what day, and I put my name and my husband's name is 2026, and where do I make it, and what is the surface, and then what is the bottom, what kind of a wood I'm using.
Yeah. So it's all written so you can see it through the dragon pool or the Phoenix Pond openings.
Yeah, it's there.
But it's in a position where nobody could write it there. It had to have been written before it was sealed up.
Okay, so next. So I was very happy. I put all the cement about to close.
I've never seen her more proud.
No, actually my teacher took that picture. I was very happy. I was very glad. I may have a hope to bring it home. That was 3 weeks before I go home. But then they told me at least it should be enough. Okay, keep going.
And this is, we're using the same lacquer here
Yeah.
to actually glue the two
It's like
pieces
this, right?
together.
Yeah.
So it's a very strong holding cement.
So and then we're still using the ruler to check the curve to make sure it's still okay.
You'll notice there's a coin sitting between the ruler and the surface
And
of the instrument there.
That's where you need to be higher. Everything else need to be lower. That need to be.
That's part of the check, is that it should be a coin thickness between the straight ruler and the curvature of the chin at that
Only at
location.
7 point. Everywhere else need to be lower.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of seal. Oh, that's the hardest
Yeah.
one. So finally, the very, very critical part is my TA helped me, because that is, he himself do it 21 times on his own
Yeah.
and to it happen. Otherwise,
Because once it's separated, so the seam goes right through these curves. And once it's separated, when you finally glue it back together, you can see that split
And you
between
have
the top and the bottom.
Yeah, that's a
So
lot
you have
of
to
work.
go in and fill it with more lacquer and more paste.
More paste and then sanding. It's just a
Lots
lot
of
work.
sanding.
Yeah, I know. That's all I do. Okay, finally, we're done, so we're drilling it. Okay. It looks very smooth, pretty smooth.
Yeah. So the goose feet that the strings wrap around just insert into these square holes. So it's just a square peg that goes in. And there's no glue or anything to hold it in place. It's just friction. So it's a tight fit, and then once the strings are wrapped around it, they hold it even tighter in place so that they won't move.
Oh, okay, that's my seal back. It's just like your name, okay. So you can, and then this is the very last thing we have to do is at least 6 minimum pure lacquer, just white, sanded white, not sanded, just white, just polished
So
bottom.
this is the very pure filtered lacquers. There's no impurities in there at all.
I didn't finish because I ran out of time, so this is in US. I bring it back and I polish it
Okay.
with my hand. And of course, all this time, like to me, I'm not allergic to the.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people I ask, they do get allergic reaction to it. Yeah, I was very careful because I wasn't sure, so.
Did I take those pictures?
Yes.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yes, you don't take credit for
You're
that.
the better pictures than any that we have.
Yeah.
So this is the one.
This is the one. That's the one.
Very cool.
That's so special.
I learned when I was there, they are asking me, do you have OCD? I guess I do.
Oh, OCD.
强迫症. It's an obsessive
I think
compulsive
it's your
disorder.
turn to take.
Oh.
You need to have that to do
You don't
this.
say that.
It's just a lot of work.